Hey there, YouTube and Wooper Club fans. It's Fruit Taco here, coach of the Route 1 Burbs, bringing you a feature match from Week 8 of WCL Season 14, the last week of the regular season. And while actually both of these teams are locked into or out of the playoffs, we've got the Waterdeep Wobbuffets going up against the Close Combat Club. And trust me, it's still plenty of an interesting match. Coach is not taking it too easy just because the playoff results are decided. Let's jump into it. The Waterdeep Wobbuffets have Cyclozar, Sneasler, Screamtail, Latios, Manaphy, Galarian Moltres, Glamora, Rillaboom, Heatran, Empoleon, and Scrafty going up against the Close Combat Club, who have Iron Moth, Electabuzz, Hydreigon, Tinkaton, Landorus Therian, Murkrow, Basculegion, both forms, Politoed, Hisuian Braviary, Diancie, and Conkeldurr. The Wobbuffets have the top 3 fastest Mons in the matchup and do have a Mon tied for 4th fastest, giving them the edge in that initial speed, also with access to things like Unburden on Sneasler. But the Close Combat Club do have Prankster Tailwind and potential Trick Room Sweepers, which could end up giving them an edge if they go one of those routes. For the Wobbuffets, looking at this matchup, well, the Close Combat Club don't have any huge weaknesses, but Electric, Fairy, and Rock are pretty good, with Dragon and Ghost also being decent neutral types. There are a lot of ground weaknesses, but 4 immunities, which all happen to be weak to Ice, mean that that combination of coverage hits 8 Mons super effectively, but the Wobbuffets don't have anything to immediately take advantage of that. We might see them try to exploit that combination of types via Terra or something, though. Latios, I think, looks pretty good as an attacker here, with good speed and coverage options, and if the fairies are dealt with by something like Heatran, Draco Meteors look really, really good. I also expect Rillaboom to come with Fake Out and maybe even Grassy Glide for that mini Rain Core, as well as definitely Heatran coming to deal with those fairies, as well as potentially Iron Moth. Manaphy, I think, could be quite good, as Water is okay in the matchup, and the Close Combat Club don't have a lot to hit back super effectively, although the competitive ability on Empoleon looks very interesting up against a potential Landorus coming as well. For the Close Combat Club, the Wobbuffets similarly cover their big weaknesses with multiple resists, but Fairy, Fighting, Ground, and Ice are all types that they could be looking at. The club have a lot more potential directions they can go, but I think this seems like a Trick Room match for sure. Conkeldurr, Diancie, and Braviary all look pretty dang good in Trick Room. Maybe throw on something like Terra Fairy on Iron Moth for a little speed outside of Trick Room, and I think you could make a pretty nice team, maybe even with a backup Tailwind mode. Overall, it's a hard call. While I generally think the Wobbuffets have a better team, I think the club actually has a very good chance at the upset here. I think Trick Room looks really good, and with playoffs in the bag, the Wobbuffets might be taking it a little easy. So, in the spirit of last week's feature match upset, I'll throw my hat behind the Close Combat Club today, and we'll see if they're actually able to come through with the upset. So let's see what the Wobbuffets settled on bringing to the match. We're going to be starting things off with Rillaboom. We've got max HP and max attack Adamant Nature with a Choice Band, Grassy Surge, and Terra Grass boosted Woodhammer and Grassy Glide, definitely doing some big damage there with those Grass-type moves. U-Turn for strong pivots and hitting things like Hydreigon, Stomping Tantrum for then hitting some additional weaknesses as well. This is not what I was expecting from Rillaboom. Banded Grass Stab is just okay. It's great into the water types, and Grassy Glide actually has a chance to OHKO max HP Diancie, but with several grass resists and ground immunities, I think the Choice Band here is just awkward. Banded Stomping Tantrum does over half to max defense Tinkaton and Electabuzz, and I think that this set is really intended to spam Woodhammer and Tailwind, which certainly chunks even the resists, so while this set seems fine, I'm not in love with it, but I definitely see it being able to put in some decent work in the match. Next up, we have Heatran, max HP, max physical defense, and an Assault Vest for all-around bulk. Terra Grass will resist ground attacks and pairs well with that Flash Fire, also resisting water type. Magma Storm, Heat Wave, and Steel Beam stab options with Earth Power coverage, and this is a bit of a crazy set, but I think I've started to pick it apart. The heavy defensive investment lets you live +2 body press from max defense Diancie, while the power of Steel Beam is a roll to one-hit KO, even max HP Diancie if it terras into Rock or Fairy, and even KO max special defense Diancie with +1 special defense if it doesn't terra. Scorching Sands for incidental burn over Earth Power could be nice, but Earth Power is an almost guaranteed one-hit KO into Iron Moth, while Flash Fire and Steel typing make it immune to both of Moth's stabs. This seems to be a pseudo-suicide counter who can live at least one hit from even its bad matchups and fire back with a big attack into a pivotal piece like Iron Moth or Diancie. Factor in things like Steel Beam doing big damage into neutral targets like Braviary, and Magma Storm potentially trapping an exploitable Pokemon in, and while this set will probably take itself out or go down soon after, it'll probably be taking at least one thing with it. This set will probably be hit or miss though, depending on what it finds itself up against in the match, but I'm pretty impressed with the thought behind it. Glamora is next. Max HP, max special attack, modest nature with a power herb to get that special attack boost from Meteor Beam right away. Terra Grass will resist ground and water weaknesses again. Sludge Bomb, Poison Stab with Earth Power coverage, and then Protect to round out the set. This is another set that could be good, but will require some work to really make shine. Like Rillaboom, it really wants the Tailwind up to be moving first, but if it gets the Meteor Beam boost, as well as, maybe a past Calm Mind, which we'll see later on the team, it's going to be throwing out huge sludge bombs, with Landorus being the only poison resist that isn't weak to Earth Power. I think I'd like to see a bit more investment in speed, at least to outspeed Modest Braviary, because the HP is nice, but you still get one-shot by a variety of attacks from the other side, so I think you can afford to drop a little bit of that HP investment, but if this thing gets a boost in Tailwind, watch out, because it's going to be doing big damage. Latios is another attacker we've got here. Max special attack and speed, timid nature to speed tie Iron Moth. Terra Poison will resist Fairy as well as U-turn and poison type attacks from that stuff like that Iron Moth trying to avoid the fire types into the dragon. Draco Meteor and Luster Purge stab options, both boosted by that Soul Dew item, protect and then Tailwind for a little scouting and boosting the rest of the team. I like this set. Tinkaton is the only thing on the other team that resists Dragon and Psychic, so with the Soul Dew, this should be doing pretty good damage throughout the match. Protect and Tailwind are nice, especially given the rest of the sets we've seen, but I think something like Ice Beam or Thunderbolt to hit a couple extra weaknesses and not need to rely on Draco in as many situations would have been nice. This team definitely needs the Tailwind support though, so I agree that you don't really have room for the extra coverage, and I think this set's pretty good overall. Getting back to more bulk, we have max HP, max defense with leftovers for a big physical walling Screamtail set. Terra Dark will make it immune to Prankster moves. Protect, Calm Mind, Baton Pass, and Dazzling Gleam are the moves of choice. And this is another interesting set. The Wobbuffets are really doing some interesting things this week. While Fairy is decent into the other team, I think this set is definitely looking to pass the Calm Minds off rather than spam Dazzling Gleam for KOs. With all this bulk, I could pretty easily see it getting at least 2 boosts up to be passed to one of the 4 special attacking threats on this team, and, well, if he can do that, the other team is going to be in for a world of hurt. Maybe you could run something like Stored Power or Helping Hand over Protect, because this sitting around for like 5 turns just protecting and boosting to eventually Baton Pass might be too passive. The one thing I was hoping for from Screamtail, though, was the ability to undo Trick Room, though, and leaving that counter Trick Room to remove it behind could be a big mistake for the Wobbuffets. We'll see how it plays out and what the Close Combat Club end up bringing. And then lastly, we have Empoleon, max special attack, near max speed timid, with competitive and an adrenaline orb to hard punish the Close Combat Club for bringing Landorus. It outspeeds everything after that adrenaline orb speed boost. I know this was inspired a little bit by earlier in the season, the Calgary Corviknight used competitive and adrenaline orb to really go to town on the Close Combat Club earlier in the season, and I know this was inspired a little bit by that. We'll see if it has the same effectiveness. We've got Surf and Hydro Pump Stab with an optional Terra Water boost and Ice Beam coverage, mostly probably for that Hydreigon, then Protect to round out the set. This is definitely all in on Intimidate, activating competitive, and that Adrenaline Orb, though. +2 Terra Water boosted Surf actually has a chance to OHKO things like Max HP Conkeldurr and Offensive Braviary, with, of course, Hydro Pump then tearing through things like Max HP Electabuzz and Tinkaton. I'm a sucker for a good gimmick though, and this is definitely really fun. If it doesn't get those boosts from running into Intimidate, it's gonna be okay since most of the water resists will be accompanied by rain anyway, if they come at all, but this is definitely built to take advantage of the boosts and probably won't be nearly as impressive if it doesn't get them. I won't say that the Wobbuffets aren't taking the match seriously, but they're clearly feeling free to get a little experimental here and try some fun ideas out. From the Empoleon to the Screamtail to the Heatran, there's a lot of hit or miss sets here, which I think will either pop off or not do a whole lot at all, so we'll just have to see how they all work out, and I'm very excited to see some of them do some big work in the match. So what are they up against? Well, the Close Combat Club are bringing, starting off with Conkeldurr, max HP and attack with a speed-lowering nature, Flame Orb, of course, to activate Guts, Terra boosted Close Combat Stab, Knock Off for Latios, and Poison Jab for Screamtail, and then Protect to get that burn off from the Flame Orb safely. This is a nice, straightforward set, and definitely clues us in that this is probably going to be a Trick Room team. The coverage moves for the bulkier fighting resists are useful, but I'd really like to see Mach Punch on here for when Trick Room isn't up. You could cover all of the resists pretty well with Facade, which would open up the move slot for that Mach Punch. The speed is also interesting. Speed lowering nature, but still full IVs means that Min Speed, Empoleon, and Scrafty actually outspeed it in Trick Room, which seems like a bit of an oversight. As long as Trick Room is up, though, this definitely looks like a monster, so excited to see if it works out. Landorus is up next, max speed with an adamant nature and some attack and HP investment. Choice Scarf will let it outspeed things like Scarfed Heatran and Scarfed Modest Moltres. The Bulk will let it live Banded Woodhammer from Rillaboom and Draco Meteor from a Modest Scarf Latios as well. Terra boosted Earthquake and Stomping Tantrum stabs with U-Turn and Rock Slide for coverage, pivoting, and flinches. This is a pretty solid Scarfed attacking set. It can hit 8 Pokemon super effectively, which is great, and even without full attack investment has a chance to OHKO Sneasler with a Seed defense boost and easily destroy that 4 times weak Pokemon on the other team like Heatran and Glamora. I'd probably still have gone with a little more attack investment for some bigger U-turns and neutral moves, but it's not like you're getting any new one-hit KOs, so the Bulk is nice to have. Pretty solid set overall. Murkrow is coming as well, max HP and special defense with Covert Cloak to be immune to Fake Out, and then Terra Electric to resist electric moves. Prankster boosted Tailwind, Taunt, and Rain Dance, and then we've got Nightshade as decent guaranteed chip damage. And this is a pretty interesting set. Having Tailwind in your back pocket isn't bad for a Trick Room team, but really Braviary is the only mon that could actually benefit from it. I mean, sure, maybe Electabuzz could help out with faster speed control options, but it does seem a little bit awkward. Most of your team is just either that Scarfed Landorus or just so slow Tailwind doesn't make a huge difference. Rain Dance is similarly limited, its only real use being to boost the accuracy of Hurricane while limiting Heatran's fire moves as well, I guess. Taunt and Nightshade are definitely great choices though, no question about those. I think that moves like Haze, Thunderwave, and Quash could all compete for some of those other move slots, but as a support piece for primarily Braviary coming up on the rest of the team, this looks pretty good. We have Diancie next, max HP, a lot of special defense investment, and some special attack investment with a speed-lowering nature, but again, max IVs. Mental Herb to shrug off Taunt, and Terra Flying to take ground and grass-type attacks. Trick Room and Calm Mind for setup, and then Draining Kiss Stab with Earth Power coverage for those very resists. I really like this set. It's got just enough investment to potentially OHKO offensive Heatran and Glamora without a boost, and the Wobbuffets definitely have more special attackers, and of the physical attackers they have, Rillaboom's the only one that doesn't get hit hard by a super effective attack. This looks really dangerous in Trick Room if it can boost up, and paired with a very scary Conkeldurr makes a terrifying Trick Room core. Next up, another support piece in Electabuzz, max HP, most of the rest in physical defense with a little special defense, ends up with equal defensive stats boosted further by Eviolite, and then Terra Grass as a way to resist some ground moves. Follow Me, Helping Hand, Electroweb, and Protect is a very support-focused set. This set looks great too. We've seen a lot of the offense for this team, and with Helping Hand and Redirection, they'll be all the more effective. My only nitpick here is maybe you could replace Protect, since Follow Me and Helping Hand are just so good to click every turn, but I mean, the same thing could be said for things like Thunderwave and Taunt, which could go in that move slot, so I think this is still great. And last up, we have that Braviary I mentioned earlier. Max special attack modest with a good amount in speed as well. Terra Fairy to resist dark moves. We've then got Life Orb and Sheer Force boosted, Hurricane, Psychic, and Shadow Ball with Protect to round out the set. Braviary is in an awkward speed tier for this match. Its base speed is slow enough to underspeed most things in Trick Room, but also fast enough to outspeed everything in Tailwind, so how do you decide which direction do you go? Do you go min speed? Do you go some speed investment? Do you go a lot of speed investment? Honestly, I can't really tell you which they even chose. It outspeeds No Speed Glamora outside of Trick Room, and outspeeds Choice Scarf Heatran in Tailwind, both of which seemed like kind of arbitrary goals to hit. Maybe he's also speed creeping things, trying to outspeed Max Speed Conkeldurr or Choice Scarf Vasky Legion, but again, I don't see, like, particular values in those. I'd probably have taken out a little more speed and put it in bulk, so that you're still outspeeding non-scarfed things in that Tailwind, but you're also underspeeding more things in Trick Room. But aside from, that kind of question about where do you put the speed investment, I love this set. It looks super dangerous, with Hurricane still doing half to offensive Heatran, which is naturally specially defensive and resists it. You can imagine how much a super effective or Helping Hand boosted attack would be into the other team. And, well, overall, I really like this team. Trick Room looked really good in this matchup, so I'm not surprised to see them leaning into it. They have that Pocket Tailwind option for Braviary and the Scarf on Landorus, but I think their game is definitely going to be decided on how well they're able to set up and use that Trick Room, and if that gets shut down, I think they're going to be in a bit of trouble, but we'll see how it all plays up for them in the match, so let's jump into that right now. Here we have both teams in Team Preview. For what the Wobbuffets are seeing, well, no water resists, only one poison resist, only one fairy type to absorb Draco Meteors. Really, all of the Wobbuffets' offensive pieces actually look pretty dang good into this matchup. For the Close Combat Club, Trick Room still looks really good, and with Rillaboom being the only physical attacker, Terra Flying Diancie with a Calm Mind up could be pretty hard to remove and doing a fair amount of damage back. So it's going to be pretty good, I think. It will have to watch out for after Terra's potentially getting hit by Glamora, though. For the leads, we're going to see Empoleon and Glamora into Diancie and Electabuzz. Both solid leads from each side. The Wobbuffets were, of course, I think, hoping for Landorus to come out, but this is still a pretty solid lead, threatening a big water move, as well as potentially getting that Meteor Beam boost right away. Meanwhile, I mean, Follow Me should let the Diancie pretty freely set up a Trick Room and then be able to kind of go with the Trick Room offense from there. So I think solid leads from both, and we'll see how kind of gets the advantage out of this. Follow Me will end up sacrificing Electabuzz to 2 attacks here as the Meteor Beam boost goes off, and then Diancie will set up the Trick Room, and Conkeldurr comes out for full offense in Trick Room. 2 Terras trying to avoid weaknesses, and Empoleon will live the close combat. Diancie will get the Calm Mind up, and Glamora will KO the Conkeldurr. Well, the Hydro Pump does okay damage to Diancie after that Calm Mind. That was a lot happened that turn. Terra down for both sides. I think that's a little bit bigger of a deal for the Wobbuffets, because that means that their 4 times ground weaknesses are stuck as is. Now, for the club, should Conkeldurr have protected there to activate Flame Orb? Well, in hindsight, yes, but also I think it wouldn't be surprising for Diancie to get double targeted there if the Wobbuffets predicted the Protect, specifically for that reason. The Calm Mind on Diancie was a nice middle ground play in case of Protect or switch from something like Glamora, but I don't know, close combat into Empoleon, Earth Power into Glamora guarantees you KO whichever Pokemon doesn't Terra. Also sounds like a pretty solid play. The Close Combat Club definitely had a lot of options that turn, and we'll see how the ones they made end up working out for them, because losing that Conkeldurr early is really unfortunate for them, I think. But now Braviary will come out, and it's a little bit interesting kind of mind games with the speeds here, because The Glamora actually underspeeds Braviary and would go before it in Trick Room, but from each side, the Close Combat Club's probably expecting a faster Glamora, and the Wobbuffets are probably expecting a slower Braviary to make use of Trick Room. So not sure if both coaches at this point can actually accurately gauge the turn order, so we'll see how it all plays out. Empoleon is going to switch into Screamtail, probably expecting a Psychic attack, while Glamora is going to protect itself from Earth Power, but Shadow Ball doing big damage, showing the power of that Hisuian Braviary. Protect is going to save Screamtail another turn, but Glamora will go down to Earth Power, and then we're going to see at the end of the turn here, Empoleon's going to come out kind of as a sack or a way to stall out the last turn of Trick Room. I don't know. I think letting Glamora go down there was probably a mistake. It has a bad matchup into most of what's left, but I'd probably have switched into Latios, who's immune to Earth Power and resists Psychic, either of the moves that would probably be going into that slot. And, of course, it has Protect to stall out the next turn. Now you've got this Empoleon in. It does have Protect. It could live the last turn of Trick Room, but you're not really set up to then take advantage of the Trick Room ending. We'll see kind of how this plays out for the Wobbuffets. Protect will save Empoleon here from that Draining Kiss, but the Shadow Ball means Screamtail will go down, so now the Trick Room leaves, and Latios will come out and has a very free Tailwind or Draco Meteor here. I think I would have liked to actually see it letting the Empoleon go down there to get another complimentary Amon here to take advantage of the Trick Room being gone for this one turn, but we'll see the Wobbuffets plan here. Luster Purge into the Diancie, but missing the 50% Spadef drop means it will live the Ice Beam. Shadow Ball doing big damage to Latios, missing the roughly 30% chance to Oko, but the Diancie living does get up the Trick Room once again. The Wobbuffets were in a tough spot here. Diancie happens to be just outside of range for Draco Meteor and Ice Beam to KO it, so they did need a high roll on both Luster Purge and Ice Beam, as well as the special defense drop, to be able to take it out before Trick Room went back up. It was the right call to make, but the RNG wasn't in their favor this turn. The best play probably would have been to send out Rillaboom instead of Latios, as Banded Woodhammer into Ice Boom does guaranteed KO Diancie from where it was at. And it turns out that, of course, the Braviary actually outspeeds this Rillaboom, so it might have gone down to Hurricane potentially, but at this point, I'd probably still have expected to outspeed Braviary. Like I said, you see the Trick Room, it's a pretty slow mon, you're probably not expecting much speed investment from it. So now it is tough with that Rillaboom as well, because you're probably looking at it as a potential win condition if you can take down the Braviary, so you're trying to manage its HP as well. I don't know, it's kind of awkward here for the Wobbuffets either way. I do think letting that Empoleon go down, though, so you could have had Latios and Rillaboom out at the same time would have been a much scarier set here, though. But we'll see how the rest of the match turns out for them. Heatran is going to switch into Latios while Protect will buy Empoleon one more turn. Things are looking a little rough for the Wobbuffets, though, with the nice Protects, though. Nice double back into Latios to dodge Earth Power, try and stall out Trick Room a little bit more, but Empoleon will finally go down, and Rillaboom is out now. Heatran coming back in for the Latios Grassy Glide, taking out the Diancie, and Heatran eating that Shadow Ball, as now we'll see the Intimidate from Landorus coming out to replace Diancie, getting that nice Intimidate on Rillaboom. Definitely not appreciating it. Then we have surprisingly fast Braviary protecting and saving itself from almost certainly getting KO'd by a double attack there, as Landorus is going to do pretty big damage with U-turn there out into the Murkrow. Braviary is now going to switch out to get another Intimidate, and as does Rillaboom, well, Murkrow is going to set Tailwind, Magma Storm doing big damage with the residual damage, bringing Landorus under half. Then we've got Rock Slide connecting, and then Nightshade together with it will pick up the double KO. Fun math fact here, though. Nightshade did 26% to Heatran. 26% of Heatran's health is a range from 99 to 102 HP, so Heatran was actually really close to barely living that 100 damage Nightshade. Rockslide got a slightly above average roll too, so Heatran really could have lived that turn. I don't know, probably still to flinch to Rockslide though. We just know how those turns tend to go. And even if Heatran got a KO here, I do think Rillaboom would have a pretty hard time closing out the match by itself here. No Grassy Glide for one last KO means that Rillaboom will just survive, but like I said, we know how these go. He flinches, another Rock Slide will let the Close Combat pull off the upset win. Congrats really to the Close Combat Club for getting that one last win in, although unfortunately they don't quite make it to the playoffs. The Wobbuffets played pretty well, but without solid Trick Room counters and some pretty intricate sets, they just couldn't keep up with that brutal Trick Room offense. If Landorus had led into that Empoleon, though, boy, we could have seen a very different match, as Electabuzz was the only thing that wasn't potentially one-shot by +2 Terra Water Surf, and needed to Terra to resist Hydro Pump, and then it would be the only thing that guaranteed lived Hydro Pump, even with the Terra. So it could have gone way different. The Wobbuffets definitely making a couple hard commitments in their sets that just didn't quite pay out in this particular match. But congrats to both coaches on a very fun game, and thanks so much for watching another feature match with me here. This was week 8 of the regular season, so we're going to be moving off into playoffs soon, and I'm excited to bring those to you as well. So I'll see you then.